Ready?
Hello and welcome to Rhythm and Pixels, a video game music podcast. This is episode 34-10, the end of season world 34 of the show. We're your hosts. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I just had yogurt for dinner.
I love that. Every week we listen to great video game music from all consoles and all generations. I just love yogurt.
Yogurt is delicious, but for dinner, it's...
Yeah, I know. You need a little bit more. Maybe I'll grab you a snack from upstairs real quick.
Like I was talking to my trainer.
You need a little bit more. You got to fuel your workouts.
I was like, hey, I'm leaving, and I got to go to record an episode. If I was stopping at Wawa, what would you get for dinner? She's like, first of all, I wouldn't eat at Wawa, but second, I can just give you a yogurt. And I'm like, if she says
because she's not eating a dinner at Wawa, she's going to Wawa for a snack.
No, I was saying I want dinner at Wawa.
You want dinner. Yeah. Anyway, every week we let you pick a topic, we pick some music, and we listen to the music, we chat about it, we chat about the games, we chat about the composers, we chat about everything in between. But this week is another special episode. We have a very special guest on the show, a friend of the show, and a fellow podcaster in arms. We have Martyrus from the VGM podcast. Hello.
Hey there, gentlemen. Rob and Purnell. This is Martyrus, host of ReVGM.
It's so good to have you. We've been planning this for like a month, right?
Pretty much.
Well, real quick. Tell all our listeners all about ReVGM, what your show's about, and what you do.
Oh, ReVGM is a video game music podcast about covers and remixes. I play the original tracks, and in addition, I play their covers and remixes. Simple as that.
I mean, there's a world of arrangements and covers and all that online. And I feel like when we first started our show, we wanted to have a showcase for that. There were other VGM podcasts that we eventually discovered online, but none of them were really talking about that. It was all about the original compositions. But there's so much love for the music from other musicians, and there's some fabulous, fantastic stuff out there. I mean, I hate to put you on the spot. Was there anything that you've discovered recently that has just blown your mind?
You know what? One of the first remixes that I discovered was by Sleeping Forest, their version of Days When My Mother Was There. Oh my God. It hit me at a time, when my mom had passed away, and, it just took my heart, literally.
Oh,
I feel like I'm trying
took my heart, literally, and it's just... that was one of the remixes. One of the artists that really took me also was Lacey Johnson. God, love the Guitar Queen.
Yes.
She's just awesome. And a bunch of other bands as well, like Super Madness, and of course Kirby's Dreamland Band.
They're both out in the neck of the woods, I think, too. Like, they're off on that side of the world.
Yeah. Both Super Madness and Lacey Johnson are over here on the West Coast.
Lacey Johnson, fantastic work. Really proficient. Really good stuff.
Yes, and I have to say congratulations to her for reaching 10,000 subscriptions on YouTube.
Yeah, that's a huge milestone. And I want to promote, we're talking about cover bands, the Mad Gear, another friend of the show. They're close to 1,000. They got to hit that. So check out the Mad Gear on YouTube. They just covered a track from Axelay for the SNES. It's really good.
Axelay.
Their saxophone player is crushing that melody. It's so good. And of course, Cameron on the drums. Can't beat that.
I can dig that. I'd check that out. Honestly, the funny part is, like, for a split second, though, I was getting thrown off because Axelay, I was starting to think it was the game with the guy on the cover playing the banjo, but that's a different shooter.
That's Phalanx.
Phalanx. There we go.
Phalanx.
Axelay is like big orange letters.
Yeah. Axelay. Yeah, that one was it Square?
Now, I don't think it's Square, but I don't know who it was.
It's interesting. It's got a Mode 7 kind of shooter feel to it, which is very unique on the SNES. But yeah, a really fantastic soundtrack, the Mad Gear. Check it out. Subscribe to it. It doesn't hurt at all. Just click that button. No, not at all.
I don't know, man.
In fact, it does. It makes you feel better. It does good things for you.
But then when you wake up and you're short 20% of your body's blood, I mean...
And then while you're at it, listen to ReVGM and click the subscribe button on his show, because it's fantastic. And now he's on our show, and he's going to make our show fantastic.
That's right.
That's right.
So smash that subscribe button.
Maybe a little smarter too. Who knows?
Hey, I can take it. I'm sitting here eating yogurt raisins, so I can use all the help I can get.
Those look good. The raisins. I thought those were nuts.
Nah, they're yogurt raisins. You know.
I just ate a Cliff Bar, so I don't know. I don't have nothing to talk about. All right, so
I'm still eating Halloween candy.
there was a ton of Halloween candy at work, and I had to stop. I got one Snickers. I'm really proud of myself. I had one fun-size Snickers. All right, so we usually go to our guests and ask for them for advice, for life advice, love advice,
Topic advice.
topic advice. Honestly, we want to know what topic would you like to do for our show. And Marty, can we call you Marty?
Yeah, that's fine.
You came through with an amazing topic. So November is in some parts of the internet, which I'm very familiar with, is NaNoWriMo, which
is that how it's pronounced?
National Novel Writing Month.
I always call it NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
No, that too.
Do you have any personal connection with NaNoWriMo, or is it something that you're just familiar with?
Well, actually, I do, because I've been a participant of National Novel Writing Month for several years.
No kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah, I tried the first 2 times, but I failed.
Yeah.
And then the third time, with some planning and outlining and all the stuff that you could do as an author, I did manage to bang out 50,000 words in 30 days.
That's amazing.
And then some.
Is it one of those kind of things, though, where even if you don't pull out the 50,000, it's the attempt that gets you to get there that makes you stands out?
Absolutely. It's a goal.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you know how there's game jams, right, where they get like 2 or 3 people together and they're like, make a game based on picnic tables in 2 days. But like NaNoWriMo is like, write 50,000 words of a novel
about picnic tables
in 30 days, whatever you want. And so the idea is it's all about doing it. It's
putting pen to paper.
JFDI. Just do it. And I've seen people with tattoos of that. It's all about, and you got to practice those creative muscles and the and just the process of just doing it and getting it done can encourage you to do more. And honestly, a lot of great writing has come out of NaNoWriMo.
One of the most famous ones, I believe, is the Midnight Circus that was published. That's one of the more famous novels that came out of NaNoWriMo.
I did not participate, but Christy has in the past. And it's very my wife Christy. It's very it's intense.
Was that when she got that one article published?
No, that was something else. That was some other like fantasy writing that she did.
Okay.
Because she was part of a writers group in the area too. Yeah.
Well, Rob, you should tell Christy that I am actively participating in it again this year.
Yeah. I think she's
as of now, currently I have about 24,000 words. 2,400 words done.
Okay,
I'm about to say 24,000.
Are you halfway through? Because
wish.
It's like 3 days into November, dude. I think you're cheating.
Some authors I've seen, they just bang it out like in 2 weeks. Like, there's no way. You can't have that much time.
Just word vomit.
Yeah.
They're Stephen King.
Pretty much.
Is what they're doing.
Honestly, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's all planned out or if you're just vomiting words right onto the page or onto the pixel. You just get those words out as much as you can.
I have a novel for this week's show that fits into NaNoWriMo, which very much fits into NaNoWriMo. That's, I think.
Is it Final Fantasy X?
It is Final Fantasy X. It's based on the novel of the same name, Final Fantasy X. It is written by P.J. Wellahan.
Figures. Friggin' figures.
I was trying to think of a good author name and stuff. I thought of a dumb sports bar that's down the road. P.J. Wellahan. Anyway, so our episode is all about games based off of novels, off of books, which there are many of, and many of them aren't so overt about it. They're not like hey, based off of the best-selling novel by John Grisham. It's actually or Tom Clancy. That's what I'm trying to think of. Tom Clancy, Rainbow Six, Purnell.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wrote Final Fantasy X.
He wrote Final Fantasy X.
That moment where Yuna took up the freaking AR with the AR-15 and started letting loose into some Aeons. Yeah, totally Tom Clancy.
He was the voice of Waka and Kamari
and Titus
and Yuna. We're not going to talk about Final Fantasy X, but in saying that, we just have.
Hey, we had to get it into the episode. It wouldn't be right if we didn't.
But we have some like fascinating stories and some fantastic music to get into. Martyrus, why don't you kick us off with your first pick of the show, if you don't mind?
Ooh, well then, let me see as I look through my show notes here. Oh, what's the first one I shall pick? Okay, let us start with this track from Digital Devil Storage, Megami Tensei, developed by Altus for the Famicom and published by Namco for the Famicom. This track we're going to listen to is Battlefield, composed by Tsukasa Masuko.
And we're back. You're listening to music from Megami Tensei for the NES, Digital Devil Story. Well, not NES, Famicom, I would say. This is Battlefield, and it is composed by Tsukasa Masuko, chosen by Martyrus, host of ReVGM Podcast. This is pretty, I don't know, it's very Battletoadsy, to be fair.
It definitely sounds like a Mega 10 battle track, even this far into, like, even this early on. Like, it just sounds like Shin Megami Tensei regular battle theme. And I'm guessing Battlefield is the battle theme for this game, just by the sound.
You got that correct.
Oh.
Indeed.
So, I am very loosely familiar with the novel that this game and eventually the general franchise concept of the comp was based on. But help a brother out. Give us some of the finer details as you know them in regards to this novel. Give us some details.
Well, this is actually from part of a trilogy of sci-fi books written by Aya Nishitani. This was later adapted into an animation and then licensed for video games. Pretty simple as that. And of course, there are elements of the book that you will see in the video games as well. The author was deeply involved with the Namco version of the game. One of the big ones is the Cerberus Demon, which is a homage to the narrative of Nishitani's trilogy.
Oh,
and of course, this game was the beginning of the Megami Tensei franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Pernell, you are correct that this music does sound Megami Tensei.
This is a trip, and honestly, the narrative for that time was I want to say it was pretty heavy, in the sense that it dealt with a lot of reincarnation concepts, demon summoning and rituals.
There were a lot of not a lot, but there were definitely more games released over in Japan that had more adult themes. Like this that would have never made it over to America, where games were just being reintroduced mainly to children or to teenagers, to kids. So they weren't gonna try to market these types of games.
And this is actually another thing about this that kind of got lost in the shuffle on the subgenre games in the series. Like Shin Megami Tensei proper, up until I guess even 5 did it, but for the most part, the whole cyberpunk vibe. Like this one, like Digital Devil Story, went pretty hard on that idea of the cyber horror, where it's like, okay, this guy kind of creates a comp computer out of a homemade PC, and he matches it to his arm, and he can use it to summon the demons by using writing code that summons demons, and also uses the code to actually does fusions and things of that nature. And of course, there's various guilds and things of that nature that take advantage of it as the series progresses. It becomes a more commonplace tech.
So it still takes place in kind of real world, but it's kind of like a cyberpunky kind of real world, right?
Yeah, it has elements that are blended into it. It's meant to be modern, but with a twist.
I like that. I feel like that's something that you're always really drawn to also, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, the Cliff Notes. Yeah, the Cliff Notes version of it is basically 2 high school students who deal with this summoning program that's gone wrong, and they're basically trapped in this labyrinth. So they travel through this labyrinth, fighting through Lucifer's generals: Minotaur, Loki, Medusa, Hecate, and Set. And eventually, they'll face Lucifer himself. And of course, in the process, they meet these demons. They have the option to bring them over to their side to help them fight.
Friendship.
Pretty much.
That's a demon friendship, but I still friendship.
Hey, I mean, I don't know. I've played Shin Megami Tensei and Megami Tensei, and I don't know. Going down to the trenches with a Jack Frost, yeah, that's your friend.
Yeah.
Friends for life, hee-ho.
Well, okay, let me get into this. So we're talking about sci-fi novels or fantasy novels. That's my next pick here. We're going to listen to a track from a game that is based on a novel that definitely fits into the NaNoWriMo theme. This is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Curious about this one.
This is a point-and-click adventure, which is terrifying. You can still find it on Steam. It's been re-released on Steam. Came out in the 90s. This is music is composed by John Ottman, and the track we're going to listen to is Resistance. All right, and we're back. You were just listening to music from the game I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Track was called Resistance. It was composed by John Ottman.
Could have been John Grisham.
John Grisham, not John Grisham. All right, so this book was written in 1966, right? So John Ottman wrote a chapter or two of the story and a bit of an outline, gave it to a friend, and his friend said, "This is really interesting. You need to finish it." John Ottman took it home and finished the book overnight. So this definitely fits in NaNoWriMo. This book was definitely written in one night. I'll give a little bit of a overview of the story, and the game follows the story almost exactly, except for a few changes, especially towards the end. It's during the Cold War, and let's say there's the Soviets, there's the Americans, and I think it's the Chinese, and everyone is going to start shooting nuclear weapons at each other. So every nation of these big nations create a giant supercomputer to control all of these. They create an AI supercomputer to shoot off the nuclear weapons to make all these decisions. All those supercomputers become sentient, and they all form up and team up into one giant supercomputer called the AM Allied Master Computer.
Oh, morning computer.
AM, it calls itself, as in I think, therefore I am. It destroys humanity, except for
as one does,
except for 5 people, which it keeps alive, effectively immortal, just to torture them for over a century.
Jesus!
And in this game,
it's amusement.
What is the purpose of that?
Because it's bored. There's no humans left, and it needs to do something. So it takes those 5 people, and those 5 people are the stories you play through in the game. Essentially, the book is the stories they're telling each other, and they're trying to find canned goods. All the while, the master computer, is tormenting and torturing them. The book does not...
They're in the grocery store with pushing a shopping cart, and every 5 seconds they get jabbed with a needle in the back?
Mainly the master computer messes with their body, makes them deformed, gives them urges to torture each other, gives them urges to attack each other emotionally, physically.
And all the while, they have no mouths, but they want to scream.
That is the final line of the book, and it does not end well for the human.
The human.
That's the human that's remaining. That is the final line of his dialogue.
Jesus.
It's awful. It's really. I mean, it's as far as fantasy goes, it's pretty. It's pretty interesting. But oh my god! In the book, you play as the characters, and the Arthur Harlan Ellison actually voiced the master computer in the game, and also did the voices of the audiobook as well, which is really fascinating.
Yes.
To me. And really wanted the game to not have a good ending. He wanted the player to play through the story as it was written with a horrible, horrifying ending.
You couldn't even have one ending that's like, this is how it could have been
so,
if I weren't a sadist.
But I have seen all the endings online, and because there are a couple of playthroughs, they just do everything that they could do, all the different options, and you can see all the different endings. And one of the endings is definitely, I almost played that the music for that, but it was really disturbing, so we're not going to listen to that one. But yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I've heard the title of this book. I've never actually looked it up. There's actually a stamina pack on DDR ITG that I play called I Have No Feet and I Must Stream.
Oh, I like that.
Which is based on, which is No Feet playing the game, and Stream, which is the stream of 16th notes, which is based on the book I Have No Mouth.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
I was like, oh, that's where that all comes from. Very interesting.
Does that also not have a very happy ending?
Stamina. It's you're playing not to die. You're like, I hope I don't have a heart attack playing this game.
This track has the highest kill count in the entire franchise.
Oh god.
No, yeah. Every year we play, and it's like we all know we're just being masochists at that point.
It's what makes it special.
It's what makes it. It's what draws us together. Martyrus, you read this book, right? You said you've enjoyed this.
Yeah, I played through a little bit of it. Unfortunately, I have not read the book. I am aware of the book, and I'm aware of how twisted both the book and the game are.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard things about the game.
I will read the synopsis.
The synopsis is enough, man. Sometimes I just go to the wiki and I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to read that.
Yeah,
For now, I'll throw you the Cliff Note version.
I am 100% Cliff Noting it. Like, oh, guy gets murdered painfully. That sucks.
Yeah.
Going on.
Going on.
That's what happened with me in Hostel. I was, you gotta watch Hostel. I was like, I shan't. I read the Cliff Notes. I was good, and then someone forced me to watch it because this was back when I didn't have a car. So I was like, well, you can't go home, so we're watching this dumb movie. And I was like, yeah,
I'm watching.
I regret that decision.
I'm watching The Midnight Club on Netflix right now. I'm kind of excited to watch more scary stuff again. But,
everything scary, I'm cool with. But there's certain
scary,
things.
Spooky. It's not like gross.
That's the thing, like, I mean, even
really
gross doesn't truly get to me. It's just there's certain elements. Like a friend mentioned The Fly recently.
Ooh.
Even at this age, The Fly is just disgusting. Also,
The Fly rules.
It was a good movie, but it was disgusting. And anybody who claims otherwise is lying, or they have some freaking steel guts.
Well, hold on, Martyrus, where do you stand on the spooky / scary movie situation? Some people are really into them. Some people are, meh.
Almond Joy's got nuts.
God, I have a wild imagination, maybe a little too wild for my own good. So really freaky movies, that have people being killed, limbs being chopped off, mutilated, or just really gross tech things that come out, that just freaks me out. And it's just too real for my imagination. Now, maybe a few jump scares here, or just some spooky, creepy stuff, ghost stories and yokai and all that kind of stuff. That I could probably handle.
Yeah, but the slasher stuff is like.
Oh yeah, slasher stuff.
But they're like the rub, though.
Honestly,
right?
it's honestly, the first I think horror movie I watched to me was Poltergeist.
All right, Poltergeist. That's a roughin'.
And unfortunately, because I was watching it when I was in my early teens, I pretty much hid behind a couch cushion the whole time. only peeking around just to see, okay, what's happening. Oh, nope, go back.
Yeah.
See, there's something to be said about, because I think a large part of where a lot of what I do handle comes from is, I was subjected to horror movies way early. I was talking to that same friend about that. I watched, Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and all those when I was, 6. I would just, oh, Freddy's slashing up people in their sleep.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I watched Child's Play at the optimal time, back when My Buddy was popular, and I had a My Buddy doll because of course I did. And then Child's Play comes out showing that your doll will come to life and murder you in your sleep. So I had my Buddy doll sitting on a trunk near the nightlight, watching it all night like, it's not going to move, is it? It's not going to move, is it? But by that same token, like, there were other things that I started to come to later, like as I got older, and I started to be able to be like, okay, I'm rationalizing horror flicks.
Yeah.
So stuff like Midsummer freaks me out because Midsummer is actually plausible.
Yeah, it's psychological. It's human, right?
Yeah, it's too human.
Because now that we're older, we know that humans are far more scary than any
humans
ghost.
are messed up. Exactly. Yeah. Human enemies are
humans
the
are too
films.
complex.
They're too complex. Now the
like the Ring, right? Like you ever hear people say how scary the Ring is? Yeah, but the thing is, like, you can solve the horror. For me, watching it, if I could solve the horror, it's not scary.
There was a really interesting article that I read online of a woman who was thinking back about when she first watched Jurassic Park, and she was way too young, and she was terrified. And when you're a kid, you know, those your parents and adults are trying to rationalize it for you. Like, T-Rexes are long gone; they can't hurt you. But when you're a kid, you're not thinking rationally, especially when you're laying in bed. Like, the T-Rex is going to come through my window. So she was like, "Well, what would I tell my child self? Like, knowing what I know now, what would I tell my child self? How would I help them through that time?"
Easy. Jurassic Park exists on an island, and we're not taking you there.
Yeah.
They can't get you.
Yeah. There's one way to rationalize it.
That sounds so simple.
To remove it as far as possible. And what she decided ultimately, and kind of what your stories are, is to to make it funny, to make it more humorous. Like,
yes.
The T-Rex can't do the Y in the YMCA. And for you, it's like you watched scary movies, but you watched kind of like the campy stuff.
No, I watched some of the hard stuff.
The Friday the 13th.
I watched Poltergeist.
Oh, yeah,
like
Poltergeist.
You mentioned.
Yeah,
I watched all 3 Poltergeist movies by the time I was 7.
Okay.
Because the 7th one came out, or the 3rd one came out when I was 7.
This is answering a lot of questions for me.
Yes, as it should. I watched a lot of rough films growing up.
I couldn't do it. I watched like Creepshow when I was like, I don't know, 14 or 13.
Creepshow still sticks.
Yeah, that freaked me out.
Freaked me out though. Yeah. Thanks for the ride, lady. Never left my brain.
I have the album on vinyl. It was I forget who the composer was. It was John Grisham. No,
it's always John.
I think it was John Carpenter. And in the and it's all that the comic book style in the liner notes and in the art on there. And it's just like, it's because of that memory of when I was younger. It's still like freaks me out. It's like visceral.
Like Tales from the Crypt I used to watch back then when I was in my single.
I enjoyed that. That was funny.
That stuff I love watching. Tales from the Crypt.
But Tales from the Crypt could go either way. But you remember Tales from the Crypt, like how it could go. Some episodes were hilarious and campy.
Yeah.
And some were very much dark. And there's like this weird thing where you get this really dark narrative, and at the end the Crypt Keeper comes like, "Wow, kids, that was funny." Like, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. But like, I don't know. But I mean, am I the only one who does the idea of like they just rationalize the films away? Like, Hostel is scary. Midsummer is scary. Hostel especially screws with me. Because Hostel is simply a matter of you're on vacation going somewhere new and exciting, and you just get murdered.
I'll say the what was the other Jordan Peele movie? Not Get Out.
Us. Nope.
It was Us. I haven't seen that movie because the trailer scared me.
Yeah, it was a weird trailer.
And that's not, and you know it's supernatural, and it's like about doppelgangers trying to take over your life, and like that feeling and that like. That visual, that like it's a nightmare feeling.
They'll just break all your mirrors.
I can't. I'm afraid to watch it. I want to watch it just to get past it, because Get Out scared me too, and I finally watched it and I was like, this was amazing.
Get Out was probably one of the most real films I've ever watched.
It was. Holy moly!
Like I'm sure there's people going here to go typical black guy talking about Get Out, but I'm gonna tell you something.
Jordan Peele is a genius.
Yes, he is, but that movie was visceral.
Yeah,
like. So at this point, it's statute of limitations is up on this freaking film. So like, for example, so people know the premise is pretty much body snatching black people, right?
Yeah.
But when you watch the film as a black guy, he played on a number of tropes that when you watch the film for the first time, you're just writing the tropes because you know the tropes. Like when the cop pulls him over and she's like, let me see your license. She's like, why you gotta see his license? And he's like, because I need to know who I'm talking to because people are disappearing out here. And you're like, yeah, you speak up to that cop taking his license. Turns out, like, no, he was actually looking out for the cop. And we played into it. And then the best part, of course, was at the end.
Oh.
Where he, at the crescendo, at the climax of the film, he's on the ground with the killer or whatever, and he's fighting. He's pretty much about to kill her as she's on her way out. And a cop car pulls up. The entire theater.
Oh my god!
You like simultaneously.
We were like,
"Oh, come on!"
We were like, "No!"
People were pissed,
and of course,
then when his friend gets out, everybody goes, "Oh yeah!" Everybody simultaneously lost it. Like that's a rare.
That
film
wasn't the original
moment.
ending.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jordan Peele wrote about this. He said that the original ending was it was going to be a cop and he was going to go to jail because that's
what you'd expect.
That's what you would expect. That would be reality. But everyone loved the character so much. After like an hour and a half with this character, they're like, you can't let that happen to him. You can't let that happen to him. And it was just like, it was such a...
So I watched that ending. He's just sitting in prison and his friend goes to visit him and he's just depressed. He's like, at least it's over.
Yeah, no, you needed like that good...
No, you're on death row.
You needed that cathartic like ending.
Yeah.
Okay, enough about movies. Pernell, what's your first pick? I'm really curious because I don't have any notes from you.
Well, this is an easy one for me. I had to go with because I'm very weak when it comes to novellas, but I came across a few surprises, and this one, of course, I was happy to remember and bring up on the show, being Parasite Eve. For those who don't know, Parasite Eve was a game that was released by Square back in I want to say 1997 or 1998, one of the two.
The first cinematic RPG on the PlayStation.
That's right. That's right.
as it was advertised.
But that cinematic RPG was actually based on a book called Parasite Eve, which was released in 1995. So we're going to listen to a track that I am honestly amazed I never chose to play on this show before.
What?
Yeah, and watch, it turns out I'm wrong, and I did.
I don't think so.
But this track is called Plosive Attack. Not a cover, not from Third Birthday. Just Plosive Attack from the original Parasite Eve, composed by Yoko Shimomura. I, Arthur, and you're listening to Plosive Attack from the game Parasite Eve on the PlayStation 1, composed by Yoko Shimomura. So, anybody who was around for Parasite Eve back in the day, they know how absolutely absurd the premise of this game was.
Oh, it was crazy. It was so off the wall, but like visually, this game just drew you in. It didn't matter.
That's right.
And it was told from a human perspective. It wasn't like from the perspective of like the scientist who's involved with the whole thing. It was told from a detective, right? It was Aya Brea.
Yep. And she was doing battle with mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. So like the general premise of the game was that Eve was pretty much, the best way I can describe it, she was like a mitochondrial life form that took physical form in an opera singer who just kind of, she got possessed as like the perfect host essentially, and then she tried to use her body and her interface with mitochondria to influence the rest of the world's mitochondria to form some sort of super being that could in turn just enslave mankind or just kind of control things.
Right.
I almost want to assume it would be something akin to like the finality of Evangelion, where it became jelly or whatever.
So but I think that the book was just like, it was like expanding on the idea of what if the mitochondria was sentient, right?
But the funny thing about it, from what I was reading about the book, the premise was fairly similar, except instead of it being a cop chasing Eve across 6 exciting action-packed chapters of customizable guns and armor, it was actually a scientist who was kind of up close and personal with Eve's attempts at, kind of influencing mankind. And then, like, it was interesting. Like, essentially, like, Eve was able to manipulate people through their mitochondria to make them do things. Like, loosely, I remember that when she discovered, because she was pretty much was getting passed from life to life over centuries. And she eventually discovered like a perfect vessel in a teenage girl or something. So, so she had it so that either her or the teenage girl got into a car accident and was on the verge of death, and then had it so that her current body had to give up its kidney or organ to go into the girl, which is how she got inside of the girl to take over her as a full-blown vessel.
All right, so I've never read the book, but I watched the movie, which I believe is based more on the book.
Yes.
And I was very confused. When I first watched it, I was younger, and I was like, wait a minute, where's Aya Brea?
That's right.
But all this sounds really familiar. Martyrus, have you seen the movie or read the books at all?
I've seen bits of the movie here and there. The book, as Pernell noted, was published in 1995 by Kadokawa. It was also later published in North America by Vertical Incorporated in 2005. And yes, there was a girl. For some reason, she was influenced to get into a car accident and became brain dead. Oddly enough, at the time, there was a researcher who was influenced to donate the kidney to the perfect vessel. And then once that happened, of course, Eve, tried to influence more people to do other nefarious stuff. So it's a very interesting sci-fi, story.
You know what it kind of reminds me of?
I definitely have to look into it.
You know what it sort of reminded me of, aside from just the general premise of mitochondria? There was that one movie franchise, was it Species or...
Yeah, Species.
The movie, basically the franchise where the alien takes the form of the human and is kind of like half human, half alien, and it's just kind of running on baser instincts to try to grow and expand itself.
Species. I
feel like that would be Species, I believe.
I've seen the poster, never seen the movie.
I only saw the first movie, and then I got nostalgic for it at work. Yeah, there's a bunch of movies.
Species, Species 2, Species 3, Species The Awakening,
Species Harder.
Species Harder came out 12 years after the first one. Interesting.
But like, I kind of want to revisit Parasite Eve. Heck, I want to revisit Species, but I want to revisit Parasite Eve, game and actually novel, because when I first played it, I was like a teenager, and I'm not ashamed to admit that outside of the whole action aspect of it, much of the dialogue was kind of over my head because they were going off about mitochondria, describing it in ways that mitochondria just doesn't, things that it doesn't do. Wait a minute.
So you're trying to make sense of it, but you're like, it doesn't quite make sense.
I'm in school right now doing very poorly in biochemistry. I should understand this.
Okay, so this brings up a question then. So I've only played this game when it first came out, and that's the only time I've ever played this game. And so I don't know if this, and I remember really enjoying it. I never finished it because it got pretty difficult. So I only got so far. But I remember thinking it was really different and really interesting and cool.
Talk about as far as narrative or gameplay?
Gameplay.
Oh, gameplay.
Does it hold up at all? When was the last time either of you have played this one?
A couple months ago.
Really?
Yes.
A couple months.
I have the retro room, man.
I mean, just because you have a room full of
I have a room of things.
Thousands of retro games doesn't mean that every month you're like, Rob, I'm playing through all my games again.
I will say I haven't thought about this actually fairly recently. The game needs, I would like to see it get a remake because the concepts hold up. I would even say the gameplay holds up. The problem, however, is that even back then, she and the enemies move way too slowly. It's a snore fest just trying to engage the game. But I liked the game enough at the time that I played through it, especially when I got to boss fights and this music played and like these freaking creepy monsters mutations popped up. You had to fight them like the dog who became Cerberus, the giant gator with the electric tail. Yeah, Mitochondria did that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. What about you, Martyrus? Do you remember the last time? Have you played Parasite Eve?
Oh yeah, I played it several months after it was released. The cinematics, of course, drew me. Duh. But the gameplay, I really enjoyed. It was fresh. It was unique. Yes, I did pay attention to the dialogue, so I did understand what was going on, and so much so that I did finish the game. However, I did not complete it because there was still the
Chrysler
tower.
Building.
That's tower.
Yes, the Chrysler building.
Yeah, that place
to climb. I did try to. I also played the follow-up, which was 2. I didn't get too far in that game, unfortunately.
Yeah, they changed the mechanics on that
slightly
one.
different. Yeah, slightly different mechanics in that one.
I feel like that's the funny thing too. I got pretty far in the Chrysler Tower, but the problem was, I'm not sure if you remember this, but towards the end of the game, you were like, well, throughout the game, you could customize weapons. But towards the end, you were able to take your best customized weapon. Once you beat it, you could give it its own name and carry it into New Game Plus.
Oh.
So I had a gun I called the P-Funker. And that was my New Game Plus gun that I took into the Chrysler building.
That is like classic teenage Purnell.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the problem was the gun had burst fire and low damage output.
Oh.
So if for a game where resources were scarce,
Yeah.
having a gun that just blew through your bullets wasn't very smart.
That's funny.
So I just kind of ran out of bullets around the
Have
giant
we
D-boss.
talked about the P-Funker on this show before?
Nope.
I think it's the first time I've ever heard of it.
The P-Funker. That was
We're
my
learning.
gun.
We're learning new things about each other today. All right, Martyrus, we're back around to you. What's your second original game track based on a novel?
Well, based on a novel. Well, let's go to a series here. This is from the game Suikoden 2, also known as Gensu Suikoden 2 in Japan. Developed by Konami Computer Entertainment Tokyo and System Seicom for the PC. Published by Konami. For, if I may go through all this, the Sony PlayStation 1 and 4, the Sega Saturn, the Nintendo Switch, and the Microsoft Windows and Xbox One.
And apparently soon for modern consoles. I think, didn't they announce the freaking remake of these or remasters of them recently?
Yes.
Yeah, PlayStation 4.
Oh, yes.
No, that was just
definitely looking
releasing
forward
it
to that.
digitally.
Oh.
They're actually remastering them.
Right. I got full
It was like
fixing it up.
Yeah, it was like a
Graphically.
Konami announcement. I was like, oh my god, Konami doesn't suck anymore.
And it's going to be a pachinko game for your PlayStation 4. All right, well, what track are we going with?
Okay, well, let's see. We're going to play The Chase, which was composed and arranged by Miki Megashino.
To the chase, right?
Miki Megashino.
Yep, The Chase.
Apple Von Betty.
Yeah, you're 3 hours behind us. In the next 30 minutes, I am gonna.
He becomes a pumpkin.
I crash out pretty hard.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, you would totally like Basari Ra.
Sorry. Oh, that game looked cool. It sounded really interesting to me.
It is we found it on sale at Days of Nights, and for all the games that are selling their expensive price, Mark freaks out when he's like, "Oh my god, they got Basari for $20." I'm like, I remember liking Basari, but was it that good? And then we played it last. I was like, yes, that good. It's still really fun.
There it is, The Chase.
Basari.
simple but effective loop right there. This is music from Suikoden 2, Gensho Suikoden 2, composed by Miki Higashino, published by Konami. This was the track The Chase. This is really nice. This is a great pick, Martyrus.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I'm impressed by music from this game. I should really explore it more, but the soundtrack is vast.
Just make sure to play the
big.
first one first.
But I mean, explore the soundtrack. I don't think I'm playing these games.
Come on, they're short, Rob.
Are they short?
They're actually short.
Are they actually short?
They're actually
They're
short.
not like 90 hours short.
No, I'm not hitting you with a Persona 5 again. This is actually very short.
Come
Okay, to be
on.
fair, Persona 5 was like, I felt like I needed to experience it because it was so important to you, my friend.
And I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And I'm glad you did play through it. You powered through like a champ.
It was very good. I mean, I found it a very edifying experience. It was just what pushed me to finish it and to play it was because it was important to you.
Well, while I would say, and I'll stop rambling because Martyrs has some dialogue to produce here.
Sure.
He's a good man.
Produce some dialogue, Martyrus.
Produce some dialogue. Listen to me. I'm corporate.
Get my notes.
But like, while this isn't that level of important to me, Suikoden does hold a pretty nice place in my, specifically the first two games because of how well they link the two narratives together, especially if you actually have the save file from the first game, which is why you want to play the first one. But also, just by virtue of the fact that they packed so much heart and just weight of story into such a short game. Suikoden 1, I feel like a person could beat that in like 20 hours. Easily. And then the second game is a little longer, maybe 30 hours. Obviously, someone's listening to this and go, well, a completist. Like, yeah, a completist might take longer. But Rob ain't trying to get everything. Rob's trying to experience the story.
Right.
He can get through it easily in those times.
Yeah, I can watch a YouTube video. Wait, I mean, I can play the game.
You can play the game. You can beat both games in a quarter of the time it takes to beat Persona 5.
Right. So 1 year.
Yes.
One full year.
Well, 1 year for 2 games isn't bad.
No, I know. Honestly, my cousin Rachel is really, really into this game. These games.
Are you going to let Rachel down, Rob?
I won't be the first time.
Oh, jeez. Come on.
Well, tell us a little about Martyrs. Tell us a little about Suikoden and the novel. Is it a series or is it just a single book that this is based on?
Well, the Suikoden series is based on the book. It's actually based on the concept that comes from the book. Now, the original classical Chinese novel was written by let's see here. It was written by Shi Mian, and the title of the novel is Shui Hu Ziwan. Oh, mouthful. And it's based on the concept of these 108 characters, or 108 heroes, that can be recruited in the series. According to the novel, there were these 108 demons that were banished by Shang Di, the supreme god in Chinese folklore religion. They later repented and were accidentally released to be reborn as the 108 that band together for justice. There are, according to the statistics, 36 heavenly spirits and 72 earthly fiends. Now, the name Suikoden is actually the Japanese translator for the novel. So that's where you get the name.
Okay. So the person who translated the novel into Japanese from
yes,
Chinese
so, yeah.
is Suikoden. Oh, that's sweet. Koden.
Oh, Christ.
Thank you.
Shameful.
Good night.
Shameful.
Podcast over.
Oh, those sugary puns.
I was going to say, I think the wise guy will really appreciate this dialogue, and then Rob had to make that pun.
I destroyed it. That's interesting. So this is based on a much older book.
Much older.
Do you know if there is a purpose or a greater meaning to the numbers 36 and 72?
Well, I mean, you add them together, it's 108.
Well,
simple as that.
They just wanted it to be 108, but they had to give us some narrative oomph.
I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that's a Dickens book right there, man.
But the fact that you can recruit that many characters in the game, that's just amazing.
So, can you recruit 108 in the first game? and then carry them over to your second game?
Not exactly. So,
No.
if I remember correctly, without spoiling it, and I am going to, even though statues is way up, I'm still going to go here.
I mean, do you actually use them, or is this a gotta catch them all?
Some of them
Heavenly
are
spirits.
Well, yes, that too. But some of them are party members you can use in a party of like either 5 or 6 members. I can't remember which of the ones the 5th game had. I know the second had 6. But some of them actually facilitate your castle, your home base, by giving you different things, whether it be a shop or mini games to earn money or interesting dialogue even. But for the most part, every one of the 108 stars provided some element to kind of help you. But it wasn't necessarily like a time-consuming addition to your team. It was just, hey, you're in the castle. You provide support that no one else could.
Right.
Which I kind of like, actually. It kind of just goes to show that even the youngest member with the least skill provides support to the overall 108 stars.
It's still like enough to be named in the story.
Yes.
Right. I like that too.
And when you beat the
everyone's
game,
got purpose.
And after you beat the game, it gives you like a rundown, like this is what this person did after the adventure was over, et cetera, et cetera.
That's nice.
And then for the second game, without spoiling it, you can eventually go back to the location that the first game took place in, and recruit a number of the people that were amongst the original 108 stars. And they're actually kind of sort of rolled into the narrative, but not in such a way that it outright just changes it or anything.
They're
crazy
still kind of like
that.
assists.
They're like assists. But it's freaking awesome. Back then, when you first came across that, it was exciting. Like, wow, the two main characters are teaming up.
Was that something you had to like search for it, that you had to know about it, or is that like that was kind of built into?
It was built in.
That's cool.
They made sure you knew that you could transfer your save file over. And while I'm not going to go so far as to say it was blatantly obvious what to do to get this other part, it wasn't really hidden either. It was just if you play the game, you'll probably.
So if you played Suikoden, right, and you enjoyed it, you had a save file, but then let's say you started playing another game and you needed room for that save file,
and you deleted it. Tough to bullies.
That's a shame right there, man.
Buy more memory cards.
We are not made out of money, Pernell.
That is true. That's why you collect a lot of bottles and you recycle them. It was the 90s.
Or you can go to patreon.com/rhythmandpixels and you can help Rob and Pernell afford more memory cards.
Christ.
Anyway, our next track is from not quite a novel, but another book. The Good Book.
Oh, good Lord.
We're going to listen to The Binding of...
Let me get on my knees.
No.
Repent!
We'll talk about the story, not so much about anything else. This is The Binding of Isaac. This is Antibirth, which is, I think, one of the remakes of the remakes. This music composed by Danny Baranowsky. The track is Foreigner and Zeal, which is music for the Flooded Caves. Actually, Martyrus just wrapped it up right there. You hear that?
Yeah, there it is.
That's pretty good. Yeah, thank you. Keeping us on track. That's what I usually have to do.
Martyrus knows what's up. He's good.
He knows
got
what's
this.
Up. All right, we're listening to music from the game Binding of Isaac. Music composed by Danny Baranowsky. I haven't played this game. There's a lot more music in this version of the game.
Like ever?
Ever. I've never played it.
I feel like, aside from the gross humor, I think you'd actually like it a lot.
The gross humor is the only thing that's turned me off. And I don't mind gross humor. It's not a draw for me.
It is cartoony gross.
It is cartoony. And I do like the story elements of the game. And I'll get into that in a second. But this music is incredible. It's so good. Danny Baranowsky is fantastic. And I do love the developers. I watched what was it called, indie game, the movie, where they kind of talked about the pair of developers that worked on Super Meat Boy, and this was a game that Super Meat Boy was a way for the main developer. What was his name? McMillan.
Oh, Edward McMillan.
Edward McMillan. Just sort of like this to flex his. It wasn't like a complicated game. It was just like it was a speed running, side-scrolling, difficult game, but it was mostly just gross-out humor, not much more than that. And this game was to be like, okay, there's gross-out humor involved, but it's mainly a story that he could use to explore his own, kind of family history and experience growing up. So, The Binding of Isaac, the character's name is Isaac, but it's based on the story of Abraham, in which God asks Abraham to kill his son Isaac. Abraham binds Isaac to an altar and raises his dagger to sacrifice him, when an angel from God comes down and says, no, you don't do this. Sacrifice this ram instead. And so the idea is that Abraham was essentially rewarded for believing so much that he was willing to go that far to kill his own son. Which, of course, is in the story of the Bible, everyone's like, you see, you have to be willing to go that far.
But outside of the context of the Bible, you're like, oh,
but in
no,
this
that's
game,
not
in this
good.
game, you're playing as Isaac. And Isaac's, in this character, in this world, his mother is a religious zealot who is trying to kill her own son because she believes that God is telling her to kill him. And so he escapes into his closet or into a
trap door
and discovers a huge dungeon, and he's trying to escape while his mother is trying to kill him. So that is kind of the Binding of Isaac. And so it's based on a biblical story, which obviously kind of fits into the book theme of the show. But he essentially wanted to make this game because he wanted to sort of explore those themes that he grew up with in his family, because part of his family was Catholic and the other part of his family was born-again Christian. And so that part of his family would try to tell him that the Catholic side of his family weren't, they didn't believe correctly, or what they believed was crazy. And then the Catholic side of the family was like, no, the born-again Christians are, what they're believing isn't right. And so he was kind of in the middle at the same time, wanting to play Dungeons and Dragons and video games, and everyone's telling him that it's satanic and wrong to do.
So then the next question becomes, which of the opposing sides actually built the dungeon beneath their house?
I think the dungeon beneath the house is a metaphor probably for his escape into his own...
his hobbies.
His hobbies and his imagination, which isn't always a fun place to be.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, which is why the game is the way it is. That's my take on it. I haven't played the game.
I think, like I said, gross out humor aside, I think you'd like it.
But it's fascinating. The story around it is really fascinating to me the more I got into it. I had to remind myself of the story of Abraham, which, for someone who grew up in the church, I should have known. Have you played Binding of Isaac, Martyrus, or do you have any experience with this one?
I unfortunately have not had experience with it, but I do love your explanation of it. And yes, I was also like that too. I was born into a Catholic family, but I became a Christian later on. And of course, my parents would tell me this way, and my Christian friends would tell me this way. And I was like, I don't know what to believe other than 42, but hey. So I do understand the dilemma, and I have to admit I am even more interested in playing this game.
Right,
so I'll definitely have to look into getting it.
Yeah, hearing that that history with the game.
Dilemma.
That dilemma that's built around it. That's definitely made me more curious about it. Hearing other people's stories around that, it's very interesting. And hearing other people talk about like their experiences with religion, especially from childhood to adolescence to adulthood, like how that changes and how that changes with people is always very interesting to me as well.
I think one good way to sell you guys on playing the game, or not, depending on your taste.
And aside from religion, Purnell just wants us to play the game.
Oh, well, I mean, my stance on religion, I mean, my
Other than the upcoming winter sale?
I'm not trying to joke that you're dodging religion. I'm just thinking, I just think it's a funny like side by side.
But like
a pragmatic way of saying it.
So like one good thing to proud here is that Binding of Isaac's been around since the mid 2000s. I want to say at the earliest maybe 2010, but I want to say it was in the early odd zeros.
It was designed. I think it was designed originally as a flash game because he knew that it was going to be divisive and difficult to market. Yeah. So he wanted to make it like a quick flash game that he could eventually scale into something else.
But despite it being as old as it is, many still herald it as being like the king of the modern roguelike.
Yeah.
And I don't refute that at all. There are hundreds of items in the game, like 50 bosses. There's so much going on in this game. If anything, the only downside to the game is that Baranowsky's OST isn't in it anymore, which makes me sad. There was like a falling out with those guys at some point.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. Like when I found the music for this, YouTube is always difficult to sort of match up with what's not canon, but like sometimes YouTube titles and information out there
might not be 100%.
Might not 100%. Yeah, it's just enthusiasts like us.
The algorithms don't work out well.
Yeah. So, and I knew that there was some interesting stuff with Baranowsky and the developers. So I wasn't super sure if the music that I had found was from the game, but then I looked it up and there was an official OST.
Mm-hmm.
So if this music isn't in the game, maybe it still is.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
I know
you
Meat
likely
Boy
wouldn't
changed, right?
Yeah, you likely wouldn't know until you outright play the game because this game and Meat Boy did change. So the sad part is that I wouldn't say this is Baranowsky simply because of the fact that I like the track. And I can tell you from experience that while I'm not going to go so far as to say that the Meat Boy OST that they changed was bad, it was not up to snuff with Baranowsky that I couldn't go back to play Meat Boy anymore.
I'll say that the track named that I found matched up exactly with what I found in the VGM database.net.
And that's about as close as you can hope to get.
I was like, that's probably right.
Yeah, because I mean, unless the guy came in and was like, I'm going to not only change the tracks, but keep the titles intact. Yeah. That's just cold-blooded.
All right, we're on to your second track for now.
Okay, so this is one that actually caught me completely by surprise because, again, as Rob already knows, this was very much a weakness topic of mine. Like novels, me, I don't read books. I should read books. Actually, I almost bought a Stephen King book the other day, so I'm trying to get back.
Which one?
Apparently, he released a new one called Fairy Tale. But when I read the back of the book for the synopsis, even for Stephen King standards, I was like, what the heck is he saying this book is about? I can't follow any of that. So I feel like I should just go and read up on it more before committing to it. But so I was like looking through this, like, okay, what are some games based on novels? Let's do some digging. And I came across this game whose name sounded familiar, and it turns out I actually owned it. Never played it, because of course, nice. Purnell didn't.
I love it when you bring it in.
It's a game called Brave Story, New Traveler. It was released for the PSP back in like 2006 or so. And the track that I found to play on the show proper is the battle theme for the game. And it is composed by someone.
We'll figure that out.
No, I got it right now. I'm just tired. It is Minako Seki and Manase Kawasaki. Welcome back. You're listening to the battle theme from the game Brave Story New Traveler, released on the PSP, composed by Manase Kawasaki and Minako Seki. And it does turn out I did boot this game up once back in 2011. I was level 2. So there you go. I did boot the system up to check. And I'm level 2. So Brave Story, I had no idea it was actually based on a novel / potentially manga. But lo and behold, it is. And the premise of the fantasy novel is there's a kid named, what is his name exactly here? Hoopa-doopa-doo. Give me a second. I'm tired.
His name was Brave.
No, it's not. It's a terrible name for a child. Why would you do that to some poor kid? Wataru Mitani is his actual name.
High tired.
Brave. But
his name was Brave.
Come here, Brave. Terrible parent. Not you. The guy who would name their kid Brave.
I don't think it's a bad name.
You would name your kid Brave.
I'm starting to think about it.
Don't you dare.
I mean,
don't you do it. Don't you do it. I will give that kid a
nickname.
I will give that kid a nickname so fast. But this kid, his name is Wataru Mitani. He is a 5th grader who kind of stumbles into this weird fantasy world at school, like accidentally after school by walking into an abandoned building after finding what he believes to be an old man in there. And he discovers this world called Vision. It's like pretty much like a fantasy landscape that has a portal that opens up once every 10 years and stays open for 90 days, I think it was. And he's told that if he decides to go back home, he will forget all about the world he entered into eventually. And he eventually does go home. But then shortly after, stuff happens at his home. His father turns out to be, it ends up that his dad is cheating on his mom with a woman. He leaves his mom high and dry in the sun. The mom becomes really depressed and she tries to kill herself by lighting her house on fire by letting gas in. Somehow, some way, this is transferred by them saying if he goes to this world, Vision, again, he can actually make a wish. He can find a way to make a wish to save his mother's life. So he decides he has to try to do the best he can to recall what he has left of how he got to Vision so he can go back. And then once he gets there, he ends up going on a quest to make a wish to save his mother's life because she's about to pretty much kills herself. And the video game is actually about a different kid entirely, though he does meet the main character of the original novel while he's exploring. And the kid in this game, he's pretty much gone to Vision for his own desire to make a wish. So he's exploring this universe along with the animal characters he meets because this is, of course, a fantasy world. So there's cat people, there's dragon people, and there's a guy who looks like he should be evil but isn't. It's a basic turn-based RPG from what I could tell because, again, I was level 2. I probably fought like 3 battles.
None of what you said you would ever know reading the story on the box.
Yeah, because they don't even mention that it was based on anything.
Yeah.
Which is why I didn't know it was based on anything. So I've owned the game for over a decade, and I only just learned that it was based on a book because of Martyrus suggesting this topic. So that was pretty interesting to me.
Surprise.
And I actually recently got a new battery for my PSP thanks to Francis, so I can actually charge it up and play it on the go without being tethered to an outlet, which is kind of nice.
Oh, so for the longest time you were kind of stuck plugging it into the wall.
Because there's a charge in there right now. I haven't put the battery in yet, but there's a charge in there now, but it'll go pretty fast.
Look at this thing. It looks like a camera would be in this case.
Yeah, and it didn't even have a camera on it. That was before game consoles had cameras.
Oh man, the PSP. I've only ever seen your PSP in the wild ever in my life.
I'm the only person who ever owned a PSP.
So there's a hook on the end of this. I'm assuming for like a lanyard or something.
For phone charms.
I thought like maybe you attach like a necklace to it and you wear this thing like a necklace.
I'm sure somebody blinged it out, probably encrusted it in solid gold and taquitos. I don't freaking know. And then they just wore it around their neck like, look at me, I'm all kinds of powerful.
So is there like you said there's a touchscreen on the back?
No, that's the Vita.
Oh, that's the Vita. I get those two make things mixed up.
Yeah, the Vita was the better machine by far because for some stupid reason, for the PSP, Sony thought, it'd be great having a portable console with moving parts and a disc reader.
Oh, man.
That's ingenious.
God. The UMD, yes.
It was a terrible idea. Rob heard it firsthand when I booted the game up over here. It was like, rrr, rrr. Like a chainsaw's running on this thing. It's not
Yeah,
good.
is your phone going off? I'm like, no, don't worry about it.
That's just Sony.
That's Sony.
That's Sony.
All right, I'm going to turn this track down, everybody, all the way down. And we're going to get into the part of the show that we call the bonus round.
Brave story. I mean, bonus round.
The bonus round is where we play covers, remixes, and arrangements on our theme. This is Martyrus's wheelhouse right now. This is the arrangements part of our show. And which would be, this would be all of his show, right? Yeah.
Pretty much.
All right, so what have you got for us then?
Well, let's see here. I have an inspired track here that comes from S.T.A.L.K.E.R, Shadows of Chernobyl, developed by GSC Game World, published by THQ Worldwide and GSC World Publishing in the Ukraine, published for the Microsoft Windows. So we're going to hear a cover of Dirge for the Planet by Alina Gingertail.
Dark stars
That was Dirge for the Planet. It was composed by Firelake with lyrics by Yavorsky. It was covered by Alina Gingertail. Alina Gingertail, I think her name is, from the game S.T.A.L.K.E.R, Shadows of Chernobyl. And wow, I mean, first of all, Alina's got so much music on YouTube of so many different styles of games and stuff. But really all using these acoustic instruments. I saw not just ukulele, but like banjo and lute and also all sorts of instrumentation, which is really, really cool. I think some flute as well. So really, really cool.
Very, very impressive body work she has there, honestly. And I love the voice to go with it as well.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. All right, Pernell.
I just kind of got sidetracked because I was reading about that. I have no mouth, so I was
it's right. The title is enough to pull you in, isn't it?
Yeah, I was very interested in this whole premise and how it plays out. And thankfully, at least from what I could tell, it wasn't as grotesque as I was wondering it would be. But maybe what I read just was kind of cutting out certain snippets. But yeah, that ending is indeed rough, though it has a glint of positivity to it. But overall, I wish it were better.
Yes.
But I may look for other synopses that explain more detail.
Yeah, well,
now I want to know more. More.
Yeah, you can read more about that.
So,
don't take my word for it. But all right. So what's your track?
So I'm going from a little bit of a different direction here, and we'll talk about why when the track is done playing. But I did find a particular cover for the game Wizards and Warriors. It's the Symphonic Orchestra Meets Metal cover, composed by Patrick Kron. Welcome back to the podcast. And you were listening to the Symphonic Orchestra Meets Metal Jam cover track for the game Wizards and Warriors, released originally on the Nintendo Entertainment System, composed by Patrick Kron. So I'll talk about why I chose this track in a second, but one random thought I had, because it's come up recently, and this reminded me of it again, is the fact that like I have memories of this game being pretty rough. Like it wasn't as hard to say Ninja Gaiden 1, but it wasn't an easy game. And I always find it interesting when people will say things like, "You didn't beat that as a kid. There's no way you beat that game as a kid." It's like, yes, I did. I finished Wizards and Warriors 1 when I was a child. And like, how? It's so hard. But then what people don't tend to realize was like back then, if you didn't have a lot of money in your household and you got access to a game,
that was what you played.
That was what you played.
That was your weekend.
Exactly. And sometimes repetition builds skill, builds character. And eventually that's how you beat a game that in a modern age where you have a wealth of games to play, you can easily just walk away from when it becomes too hard. In this case, it's like, well, if I'm not playing this, I got nothing. So I'm going to make do with what I got. Give me those boots of lava walk and watch me jump. But as to why I picked the actual track, I decided to go at a different angle for this one.
Yeah, I like this.
So the topic of the episode is novels based on games. But I have a particular fondness for an era in my life where I was actually purchasing novels based on games, not games based on novels. In this instance, the Worlds of Power book series by FX9. Back in the day, I had a bunch of them. I had Blaster Master, I had Ninja Gaiden, I had Wizards and Warriors. But sadly, 2 of the 3 got lost to time. But I still have the Wizards and Warriors book. And I think it's interesting because they would always write these in a way where it wasn't just a retelling of the game. It was always, they would supplant some kid into the game's world, and they would tell the story with a bunch of twists and changes based on the fact that this other entity was now a part of the story. And sometimes it got pretty rough. Like, people died in these books. People got hurt in these books in a way they didn't quite in the games themselves. And I had a genuine fondness for them. Rob was looking at the book earlier when I opened it up to him. He's like, "Oh, your card's gone," because they had a trading card inside you could rip out. I was like, "No, of course it's not gone. I took it out. It's in my house right now, along with my Super Power trading cards from Nintendo Power."
Wow. I had a Castlevania. I think it was actually called Castlevania.
There was a Castlevania. It was for Simon's Quest.
Yeah, it had Simon's Quest.
I had that one too.
I was obsessed with that game when I was younger. I didn't have the Nintendo, but I had played it at a friend's house, and the music was stuck in my head from Simon's Quest. And now as an adult, I understand why. But yeah, I had that
because you were kneeling for 3 minutes at Laruba Cliff.
I know. I was just listening to that to that amazing Bloody Tears soundtrack. So, it had Simon's Quest. I want to say I had Metroid.
Oh crap! I can buy Nintendo. I can buy Ninja Gaiden right now for $3.99.
I know I had Ninja Gaiden. Yeah,
you can buy these on eBay. I might do it. There was Ninja Gaiden.
Complete the series, Pernell.
I could get them back.
Oh boy,
these are reprints. It's going to be like a weird.
That would be horrible. This is a poor condition Ninja Gaiden, but it's $3.99. Blaster Master for $11.69. Metal Gear for $20.
But nothing beats like this.
What the heck? There was one for a game called Infiltrator.
Like what I'm holding in my hand right now, where it looks like it's been in a backpack, carried back and forth to school.
It's got wear and tear on it. That wasn't me collecting a book. That was me having a book and reading it and treating it like a thing I loved.
Yeah, I love this.
It's been well loved.
That's right. Wizards and Warriors, baby. But yeah, I miss this book series, and I kind of wonder, because I don't have any kids, so I don't know what the Scholastic Book Club is, if that even exists anymore. But I wonder if they are doing anything like that in the modern day with, how do we get kids to get into this stuff? How about we take their games and convert them to books?
I'm sure there's like the Minecraft novelization, the Roblox,
Roblox
novels.
novelization. Jimmy, an average child, gets thrust into the world of Roblox, where he is microtransacted to oblivion.
This is the Paw Patrol extended universe. Anyway, for more information on the bonus round, you can go to rhythmandpixels.com, or we'll have links to the artists' SoundClouds, Bandcamps, everywhere you can download the music, buy the music, stream the music, and support these amazing artists.
It would be the PPCU. Battle.
All right, thank you for joining us on episode 34-10 of Rhythm and Pixels. This is novels, games based on novels, novel games, with Martyrus, our guest podcaster, fellow podcaster, Martyrus. And we're ending the show on another track from Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei for the Famicom. Daedalus, but we did want to go back and talk about S.T.A.L.K.E.R, Shadows of Chernobyl. So
yeah, just a little bit.
We know a little bit about the game. Tell us about the novel or story it was based on.
Well, that cover track that we just played, it is based on a Russian novella titled Roadside Picnic. It was written by Boris and Arkady Strugatsky. And it was also based on the film of the same name, Stalker, that was directed by Andrei Tarkovsky.
Oh.
So pretty simple as that. Takes place about years after the second nuclear disaster, and you play someone named the Marked One, who's got amnesia. Gee, what a trope.
How original. Perfect for games, right?
Pretty much. And you're trying to find and kill this mysterious person named S.T.A.L.K.E.R in the zone, which is basically where the Chernobyl accident happened.
It's interesting hearing that too, because like I was saying earlier, I played a game called Chernobyl Light, and it was my first game I got to play involving Chernobyl and whatnot. And same terminology, it was like, oh, enter the zone, and people were in the zone with their gas masks on, rat levels and everything else. Like it's an interesting environment to have multiple games focused upon. It really is, but it's also very intriguing too. Just the picture, the fact that just in these games they always portray it as if people are living there.
Oh yeah, it's something about it could be. It's almost like what was I trying to say? It's morbid in a way. I don't want to say the word morbid, but it's morbid in a way that your brain wants to think more about it. Like, what would it be like to live in that area? What would it be like if that was the whole world? You know, if that was your whole world.
Let's be realistic for a second, though, or let's be honest for a second, though. If anything, maybe more people should be thinking, what would it be like if the whole world were like Chernobyl?
Right.
Maybe put some perspective on reining in some bad antics. But I digress.
Just give me a Pip-Boy and I'll be fine.
I don't know. That Pip-Boy costs money. You might have to kill a few people on the waistline to get that. Oh, yes, bottle caps. Let's be honest here. In our society, in actual society, even if we were going to bottle caps, it'd be like levels of rarity and crap. It wouldn't just be like, here's 20 bottle caps. Like, I don't know, is that from a Mr. Pibb or is that from an RC Cola? I don't take RC Cola caps. Not here in this store.
You'd be the only one being like, I've already got those. Give me a vintage Jolt Cola cap.
I actually still have a bottle of Nuka-Cola in the fridge. I'm afraid to drink it.
I thought you were say Jolt. I'm like, dang.
I missed out on that. Getting the Nuka-Cola.
It's
just
probably
for the fact of having it.
It's probably disgusting right now. I don't know. I mean, it's literally sugar water, so maybe it keeps for years, but I don't know.
Those things do keep a long time. They do. But
it was like a blue bottle.
Your mileage may vary.
And I also
your health may vary.
My health may vary. I have that, and I have Mountain Dew Throwback in a jug. That one I'm definitely afraid to drink.
In a jug? Ooh. Did you like pour it into a jug?
No, it came shipped in a jug.
It shipped in a.
Oh wow!
It was like a moonshine.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's terrifying. I thought like jug was like a milk jug.
No, it was like moonshine jug.
Moonshine jug.
And I think it even sells for money on eBay right now too. Funny enough. Because, of course, the bottle's awesome. It's a moonshine Mountain Dew jug.
All right, everyone. Favorite sodas?
Orbits.
Orbits. Martyrus.
Oh, gosh. A&W.
Oh, right.
Yep. All right, I'll give an honest answer.
Dr. Pepper. Yeah, Orbits. Who says Orbits?
Now, first and foremost, if Orbits was still being made today, I would have that on the list. So let's get that straight.
It's going to be like some kind of monster.
No, it's just a soda with bubbles in it. Like colorful bubbles. Just Orbits.
But the real answer is...
But my real answer is probably going to be Livewire Mountain Dew, followed by Cherry Vanilla Dr. Pepper.
That's a very good one. I've discovered lemon ginger ale, which is
there's a lemon ginger ale.
Yeah. What's like Canada Dry? Yeah, it's like lemonade plus Canada Dry.
Okay,
it's pretty good.
Nice.
It's pretty good.
I can respect that.
It's almost like an Arnold Palmer if it wasn't iced tea. If it was ginger ale and lemonade.
Arnold Palmer. Color me intrigued.
Yeah, I love
that. Reminds. that reminds me. I need to go visit this old grocery store called Galco's. That's over in Los Angeles area, Purnell.
All right.
They sell sodas that are still in production, old ones. Because they bought the formula for it, and they're still making them, and they're still in the bottles. So Galco's.
Well, while we're trading soda vendor out in your area, I don't remember the name of it, so shoot me for this, but you'll get enough information to look it up on your own. But there is a soda vendor in Long Beach that Mike took me to years ago that had an absurd wealth of just bizarre sodas, like maple bacon soda and
maple bacon. Ooh, bacon
soda. Like they had, they're not all weird flavors, but there's just a lot of different flavored sodas that you wouldn't get in many other places. And it was awesome to sit there and peruse the wares. Like, I want that bottle.
It was like
that bottle.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came up with different pizzas. They were like, we're going to come up with crazy sodas.
No, April O'Neil came up with the sodas because she wanted to contribute a little bit more to the Turtles' dining habits.
Like, no anchovies.
She's like,
no anchovies.
She's like, look, if I'm going to sit here and eat this nasty pizza, you're going to have to drink my nasty soda with your pizza.
With your pizza.
How did those turtles ever have enough energy to fight crime?
I mean, mutagen affected their metabolism. That's the only answer.
Of course. Why? How did I didn't think of that?
Truth be told, I'm pretty sure that the Ninja Turtles ate vegetables and salads, they would have died. Their bodies can't process salad.
They couldn't get like the side salad with their pizza.
That's right. They only run on carbs, Rob.
Would have killed them. Oh, I get that. I'm in the same way. That's all I eat. So before we go, I want to thank you, Martyrus, for hanging out with us for the past hour and a half, listening to great game music, sharing some music with us.
Oh, thank you very much. My pleasure. Glad to be on. And of course, this is my first time being on your show. So, I hope to be on future episodes.
Yeah.
Hey,
whenever the ideas come up, right?
Yeah, it's honestly, yeah. If you come up with a cool topic, just
strike the match.
Shoot us a message. Strike the match. Light the dynamite.
That's right.
Blow us up. And by blow us up, I mean send us a DM. If I blow up my DMs. What can you tell our listeners about your show? Where can they find you? What would you like to tell them about what you do?
Oh, let's see here. You can actually go to visit my website, re-vgm.com. There I've got show notes, I got track listings for each episode, and a YouTube playlist. So if you just want to listen to music, that's fine by me. There's also another page called Remix Info that has lists of all of the cover and remix artists, their websites, their social media links, any of their works on such places as Bandcamp and SoundCloud, and their support pages such as Patreon and Ko-fi. And please do visit these sites if you want to support them. Subscribe, click on their links, follow their pages, buy any of their merch. Because you know what? They're just as passionate about video games as we are.
Mm-hmm.
And the final page on the website is Staff News, which has links to news articles related to video game music, and it updates as I find them. You can subscribe to my podcast through some of the major streaming services, such as Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Google, iHeart Now, and Audible. And some of the other streaming services, such as Podbean, Podcast Index, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at @re_VGM. You can also DM me through Instagram and Twitter. Perhaps you have a track suggestion. Maybe there's a cover artist that I've yet to showcase, or maybe you yourself are a cover and remix artist that would like to be showcased on my special episode of On Stage Now. So there you have it.
Time for me to get on my table tapping rhythm magics here. Like, get going.
Me and Pernell are working on our acapella.
Boom, 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 bap, bap, bap.
We do Double Dragon Stage 1 pretty good, but
I need to find some.
I do the percussion.
Covers.
It's like
nice.
pentatonics, but way worse.
Octatonics. Octatonics.
Just do it.
It'll be hexatonics.
we're just duotonics. All right. If you'd like to get in contact with our show, Rhythm and Pixels, if you have a track suggestion or topic suggestion, or you just want to say hi, you want to just if you have a recipe suggestion, send us an email.
Oh, please send the recipe suggestion to rhythmandpixels@hotmail.com.
And for a full track listing of this episode, of all of our episodes, and access to all of our episodes, go to the website
rhythmandpixels.com.
And you can we have a Discord server if you want to check out the Discord. The link is at the top of the page there. We also have a 24/7 8-bit and 16-bit radio station playing nothing but classics, deep cuts, and all the music that you love to listen to. Right now it's playing on Twitch, twitch.tv/rhythmandpixels. And in December, Squaresoft will remove the handcuffs and we will be let loose back into the world of YouTube. But you can go to youtube.com/rhythmandpixels, and there we have links to all of our shows are there, and actually all timestamped. So if you're tired of listening to us talk for 10 minutes about family matters, and you want to get to the next song, you can just click the chapter select. It's pretty nice over there.
Guess what? It's the Family Matters theme song.
And it just goes, it just links to the Family Matters theme song.
Is that another episode idea?
It's going to be.
What would it be? Family Matters?
It's just Family Matters, and we pick a song for every character of the show. I think there we go. That's next week.
Judy, the
yeah, and if you want to support the show, the best thing you can do is tell other people about it, or you can click the subscribe button on whatever you're on.
Watch Family Matters.
You could also watch Family Matters. You can go to Patreon. Patreon.com/rhythmandpixels. There you get access to monthly live streams of the show where we perform the show, we record the show live for you. You get involved with us. There's a lot of like visual gags. There's jokes that go on during the show. It's a lot of fun to do that live. There's also a lot of cool stuff you can get at the higher tiers, like there's stickers and mugs and T-shirts. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff you can get there. And at the end of every episode, we like to thank all of our Patreons who are at the highest levels. We want to thank Brooke, Frankly Zappa, and Khalid. All three of you, huge thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. We want to thank the number one, also killing it in my alphabetical situation here. Thank you, Kristen, GameFan44.
Next week, Kristen, Pokemon.
Thank you, Martyrus. I don't know who that guy is. Somehow he's gotten on our. Yeah, but we're gonna have him on our show next week. This is Martyrus, host of ReVGM. Thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you, Mike Myers. Thank you, Alf Person, Vashin8060. Re-upped. Thank you very much, Vashin. Thank you to Alex Messenger, host of AVGM Journey. Thank you, Brian Pitt, Cameron Worma, Carlos, Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast. Thank you, Chris Weisner, a.k.a. Musashi219.
The wise guy who, by the way, I convinced him to play Landstalker. He can't run away from it. I said it on the show. You have to play it.
Oh, is he going to do it on stream?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be glorious.
Get that stream in you. Thank you to Christopher Shenstrom. I'm going to never say that again. Thank you to Chuck Kowalski, Davey Cakes, David Taylor, Enchilada Regol, Harold Howard, Triple Jeff, Justin Schneider, host of XVGM Radio, Keith Shusterman, Dr. Michael Bridgewater, Rage Cage, host of the VG Emporium podcast, fantastic show. Thank you to Reinhard
podcast brother.
Yeah, podcast brothers. Thank you to Reinhard Zelkova, Sleepy S'more, Steve Miller, Taco, Ed Wilson, host of the VG Embassy, our podcast dad, and Zach Thornbach. Thank you all, and thank you many, many more for your continued support of our little program.
We very much appreciate it.
Even everyone who contributes even just $1 is a huge thank you. It helps the show stay online. It helps us to produce more merch. It encourages us to do more shows.
Yeah, it actually just straight up even just shows it. It's like that, just one added element that just says people are listening to our show, or at least even if they don't have time, they're like, we appreciate you're doing it.
Yeah, so. and as a member, you get access to a special Discord channel on our server, and that's where we kind of give like the updates on the live streams. And if you leave Patreon, I'm pretty sure you keep your role. So if you ever want to come back, the door's always open. It's always open to you. Pernell, it is November. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying about November?
I really don't.
We give thanks to each other for doing this show for 7 gosh darn years.
It really has been 7 for such a wild amount of time.
7.
So
Lucky 7.
Yes, we got a couple new shows planned for the next few weeks. We have some returning guests coming back for the next few weeks. We also have another live stream coming up, but we have our podcast anniversary, if you will, number 7.
And if I remember correctly, that's when we pick our favorite tracks from the previous year.
From the past year.
Dun, dun,
November to November, maybe December to December. My database, my spreadsheet has not been kept up to date, so you're going to have to go online, buddy.
I'm
thinking we're going to do top 10, so it's going to be a bit of a longer program, but we'll try to keep it short. In between tracks.
Okay.
But it's going to be a free live stream, and then we're probably going to do some Twitch gaming as well. I think that's always a tradition that we try to do. But
Nope. I veto Fatty Bear. There will be no Fatty Bear.
I would love to do like a classic like a Game Boy emulation, like just
not a Fatty Bear though.
Ooh.
No, I'm saying we do only movie games.
No, we need competitive head to head
like
or co-op.
And
though I'm afraid of co-op because I got this odd feeling you'll throw the game intentionally just to drive up my blood pressure. But
no,
versus
for
I
the
can
laughs.
see.
For your blood pressure for the laughs.
Well, I mean, yeah, the laughs would come as the paramedics arrive. They would very much come. But if you're listening to this point in the show, if you could think of any games, you'd be like, hey, these are some games Rob and Pernell should mess around with during the live stream. Just let us know that too. We'll actually have a couple polls out on the Discord of like what are some good. I think Track and Field 2 was a big hit. Oh yeah, my arm
time.
Still hasn't recovered.
Yeah,
from that damn game.
There's clips of that on Twitch. You can check that out. It's pretty, and I think I clipped them onto YouTube, so they're worth checking out. But yeah, I don't got anything else. I think do we have our guest? Is it next week? I am so bad.
That makes 2 of us. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Wow.
Because remember, it was a very calamitous scenario. I want to say he is coming on next week.
Yes.
But we're recording a little earlier because of a trip.
That's right. Might be earlier, might be later, but I've been hermiting since I've been like stressed out from like this home renovation we've been going through.
It's paying off though, man. His thing is nice.
We're almost there, but I'm tired of doing it.
And I'm going to mooch off that kitchen table. So many board games will be used.
Oh, I know. We got a bigger table. But the oh my gosh, I'm tired of doing dishes in my tub.
Moonshine though.
No.
Moonshine,
just trying to
bathtub mint julep.
I just have to clean my mug so I can drink coffee in the morning. Bathtub mint julep. All right,
julep coffee. Ooh.
Just see, I would drink that, especially from the bathtub.
Bathtub coffee.
Yeah, think about it.
You
have so much the quantities would be massive.
If the bath water is that color, I don't think you should drink it.
Well, I mean, technically it's coffee at this point, so
if it's still coffee,
it'll wake you up.
You could get it through your skin. I'm saying they do make soap that has caffeine in it.
There you go. I'm just saying.
They're chunky.
chunky coffee.
Do you take milk in your coffee bath, Pernell?
I would if it was in the bath.
Wow, interesting. All right. Again, more that we're learning about each other. All right, thank you everybody for listening to our show. We'll see you next week. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
And thanks again to Martyrus.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
And remember, the topic of this episode was obviously novels based on games based off of novels, but it stands to reason that reading is in fact fundamental. It's not just a goofy catchphrase that came about from the 90s, was it? I don't know. I'm old, people. But in the digital age, it has become less and less frequent for people to read novels. Some of us, myself included, will even use the excuse, it's an RPG. It's like reading a book. But with that said, there is still something to be said about reading actual books, actual novels, that doesn't quite feel the same as getting it from a game or subtitles on your favorite anime. So, even if it has to be a small book like a Worlds of Power, very few pages in here. We're talking like 120 pages. Small book, medium book, maybe some that's huge the size of your head, whatever. Read a book. The quote, handy from the Tick. Read a book! It's worth your time.